Today, we are talking about a company reinventing 911. My name is Sam, the footnote collector for this podcast, and welcome to the Tech Optimist.
Yeah, so this is literally life and death kind of stuff where minutes count and location counts. And
there's a variety of things that we can do intelligently from your device. Make sure we're really making sense of all that data, operationalizing and making it useful, harnessing the power of AI. This was a mom who went into labor early and, her iPhone got enough data into 911 through us and out to the ambulance that they were able to save her life.
In a world captivated by criticism, it's easy to overlook the groundbreaking technologies shaping our future. Let's shine a light on innovators who are propelling us forward. As the most active venture capital firm in the US, we have an exceptional view of tech's real-world impact. Join us as we explore, celebrate, and contribute to the stories of those creating tomorrow. Welcome to the Tech Optimist. As a reminder, the Tech Optimist podcast is for the informational purposes only. It is not personalized advice, and it is not an offer to buy or sell securities. For additional important details, please see the text description accompanying this episode.
all right, welcome to the Tech Optimist podcast. I'm here with Michael Martin, who's the CEO of an AV portfolio company, Rapid SOS, a company we've invested in a few times. And Michael, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
So tell our audience a little bit about Rapid SOS. What do you guys do?
Yeah, so Rapid SOS is an intelligent safety platform. So basically what we do is intelligently link any sort of connected device or system with 911 and first responders in mission critical moments. So I'll give you just a few examples of what actually that looks like here, Mike. So one example would be from your smartphone. Like if you were to call 911, previously 911, basically it was a analog voice-based connection. So the result is it was very difficult for first responders to locate you, and typically they wouldn't even know your name. Yeah. So what we've done since spinning out of grad school is basically unify every first responder agency in the United States and now working on in 6 different countries onto one standardized digital platform. So the result is if you call 911 from a smartphone in the United States now, typically 911 is going to get your location with real-time updates during that call. If you filled out, some sort of health profile app like your medical ID in your iPhone or a Google Health app, that information can come across, your name, your native language, emergency contact notifications. So there's a variety of things that we can do intelligently from your device. And this extends obviously beyond mobile devices to all sorts of connected devices, whether it's a home security system, a vehicle that is in an accident and automatically notifying, or even one of the more recent deals that we did was to keep communities safe when there's hazardous materials transported via train through their community is another example.
Yeah, so this is literally life and death kind of stuff where minutes count and location counts. And yeah, it's really interesting. And this has been old technology that, was better than nothing. But now in 2024, we need to be doing things in a whole new and better way, much more precise.
Yeah, I would say it is. So first of all, the scale of this stuff, we often don't realize. But last year, there were approximately 250 million 911 calls spread out across the United States. So statistically, around 3 out of 4 Americans called 911 last year. Now, it turns out it's not evenly distributed. There's pre-existing health conditions, domestic violence. There's certain conditions that cause someone to use 911 more than others. But this is this ubiquitous service we all rely upon, 650,000 incidents a day. And in those worst moments, traditionally, 911 didn't even know your name. And it is a testament to the people of 911 that the system works as well as it does, but not the infrastructure. There is limited to no federal oversight of this, sometimes even limited state oversight. So you're talking about every small town community in the United States over the last 50, 70 years have tried to kind of put together one of these systems. And that's quite complicated and challenging. And again, you just have this extraordinary community of first responders that are out there every day saving lives despite the technical limitations. So yeah, that's it's quite exciting to partner with that community to really take on that challenge. And today, we last year we supported 171 million emergencies with 3.3 billion data payloads. So starting to really digitally integrate all those systems.
Hi, just a brief interruption to introduce you to the Health Tech Fund from Alumni Ventures. Alumni Ventures is one of the most active and best performing VCs in the US, and we have raised over $1 billion from more than 10,000 individual investors. With our Health Tech Fund, you'll have the opportunity to invest in a portfolio of around 20 health tech startups, from transformative healthcare services to groundbreaking diagnostics. Our founders are paving the way for a healthier future. To learn more, visit us at av.vc/funds/healthtech.
Yeah, I mean, this is a case of taking on a hard problem, right? I mean, I think a lot of people perceive, venture capital as oh, you have a great idea and, 3 years later, but talk about your journey. I mean, this is a hard problem that's, that takes a decade or more to really fix. So tell us about the journey a little bit and where are you in that trip?
Yeah, so I grew up on a farming community in rural Indiana, and came to New York City for that first big finance job after college. Yeah. I was a junior guy working at a venture capital firm. It was annual meeting season, so I was making slides till like 2 a.m. and got off the subway at 110th and Lex in Spanish Harlem and had my welcome to New York mugging experience. Yeah. And Mike, it's the first time I ever thought about calling 911. Is the first time I realized in the middle of an emergency just how hard it is to like get out your phone, dial a number, and have a coherent conversation. And Uber had just come out, and I thought, I can press a button and get a car service. Why can't I just press a button and get police, fire, EMS? Yeah. So obviously that was crazy naive at the time in hindsight, but that was the initial genesis, and began cold calling 911 centers across the United States. And just amazingly, these directors would give me 30, 60 minutes, and quickly what I learned is it's not a UI problem, it's a national infrastructure problem. Yeah. And so went to grad school. So I did my MBA at Harvard, and then Nick, my co-founder, was doing his PhD actually in nuclear engineering at MIT, which sounds a little nonsensical, but this is mission critical stuff that can never fail, often on very legacy systems and infrastructure. So turns out, Nick's deep technical expertise would prove invaluable as we built it. So spun out of grad school in 2015. So since then, the company has scaled. We now are on about 540 million devices. We power 21,000 agencies in 6 countries. The company's raised about $350 million. We're about 250 folks today. But yeah, it is a journey that, I think that in some ways maybe we wouldn't have existed in any other time in history, and that we are fortunate to be in this environment and to connect with investors and partners in this public safety community where like everyone agreed, like it is time to solve this problem. But there were so many different pieces you had to, get on board. Yeah. Notably, we power a number of the major automotive companies now. And it's like, if your car crashes in Des Moines, Iowa, or Fairbanks, Alaska, or Tulsa, Oklahoma, it's got to work, right? So you had to get every single public safety agency in America to like agree to this. And then unfortunately, right, it's not like they can just stand up a new software system. You had to be embedded inside those existing systems that they bought typically over, a 6 to 15 year procurement cycle from some sort of defense contractor. So that took a lot of time to integrate into those different systems. So, yeah.
Of course, Michael and his team at Rapid SOS are doing an incredible job with, this new wave of 911 sort of technology, right? Or this new sort of public safety initiative, right? That's sort of helping first responders and, all of those superheroes around the world to get to do their job faster and better and more efficiently, right? But I think it's important to sort of understand the infrastructure that's currently in place and, what some of those pain points are and how Rapid SOS is sort of helping solve those problems. So, but really quick, I'm going to break down what the infrastructure looks like now and sort of how it works. So it works through a complex system of interconnected technologies and processes to route emergency calls to the appropriate public safety answering point, which is also known as a PSAP. And then that provides location information to dispatchers. So here's just an overview on how it functions. So when someone dials 911, the call is routed differently depending on the type of phone used, which I didn't even think about this being a factor here. So landline calls are sent to a special router called a selective router or 911 tandem. Cellular calls are received by cell towers and routed through mobile switching centers. The system uses various methods to determine which PSAP should receive the call. For landlines, the selective router uses the caller's phone number to look up the associated address in a database. And then it then uses this address to find the appropriate PSAP in the Master Street Address Guide, or the MSAG. So for cellular calls, the MSC assigns a unique identifier and routes the call based on the cell tower's location. And now for location informations, modern systems use enhanced methods to pinpoint caller location. So cell phones use special emergency location services that aggregate data from Wi-Fi networks and other sources to provide more precise locations. And then we'll sort of take it onto the back end to the PSAP operations. So when the call reaches the dispatcher, right? Or the answering point that we're sort of talking about here. So a trained 911 dispatcher receives the call along with location information on their computer. The dispatcher then assesses the emergency and dispatches appropriate services, police, fire, medical, etc. But the sort of next generation, this 911 system is transitioning to a more advanced digital infrastructure, kind of where Rapid SOS fits in here, right? But I just wanted to provide a little bit more background kind of on how the infrastructure works right now. This is, again, one of those things in the background that seems like magic and how it works, but it was really fascinating to sort of research it myself and share it with you. We're going to have Mike take the show back away and sort of talk about, the future endeavors of Rapid SOS.
So what do the next 5 or 10 years look like for you? You spent a good time kind of building this multi-sided market, this infrastructure. What's next for you guys?
Yeah, so I think there's kind of like, three next steps, I would say. So now this infrastructure exists everywhere. And so now it's just filling those pipes up with more and more content and information. Like every single piece of information can be transformative in an emergency. Yep. So video feeds, hazmat information, like, I have a 3-year-old and a newborn on the way. And we've got this amazing baby monitor that can detect if he's breathing or not. But then what happens, right? So digitally escalating, getting all this content through. So, at this point, we have over 100 tech companies that are customers that feed content in. I mentioned 540 million devices, but that grows on a weekly and monthly basis. So that's one. Two is a consequence of that, though, is that we're hitting a moment in time where we're almost hitting information overload in these mission critical moments. And that's, I think, really an exciting moment for AI to intersect this platform that we've been building. So we announced actually earlier this week in our Innovation Day, Harmony, which is the first co-pilot for 911 in public safety. And so Harmony is built on a combination of foundational models, a generative large language model, and then we're using RAG technology to, make sure we're training it on authoritative information and authoritative results. And, I would characterize Harmony still as a bit of a middle schooler right now, Mike, but you can see the potential. And we're already starting to use Harmony to do, for example, like in a train derailment, rather than transmitting to first responders, here's the contents of 100 different cars in that train. We say, hey, cars 6, 12, 18, and 54 have hazmat. Here's the specific handling guide and how to handle that particular chemical as an example. So we're parsing out this information and really integrating it into 911's operational stack. So I think you'll see a lot more coming from us there actually even later this year. We're also in beta right now where Harmony is answering the most redundant and superfluous 911 calls.
Which there are a fair number of, right? For sure, right?
Yeah. So we think, there's probably something like 50 million of those a year. So so that's in the works.
I felt it was valuable to share some instances where it would be best to call 911 versus some that are more non-emergency calls. Sometimes even myself when encountering some situations in this hemisphere, which life happens. I never wish it upon anyone, but I often wonder aloud if I need to call 911. Like I find myself verbally asking if I'm with someone, should we call 911, right? So maybe this will help and help you sort of next time you have to make this sort of decision. So when should you call 911? Whenever you or another person's health, safety, or property is compromised. Domestic disputes, attacks, gunshots, fires, hazardous incidents, down power lines, car accidents with injuries, yada, yada, yada. An in-progress crime, such as theft, breaking and entering, vandalism, and suspicious activity. So like someone who's trying to open car doors and looking super suspicious and, probably shouldn't be doing what they're doing. And then these are some instances that you might come across where, maybe you should call a non-emergency line, right? Like one that probably a dispatcher can't help you the most with, right? Instead of bogging down the phone lines, maybe just take a second guess in these situations before you're to call 911, right? So it's reporting a crime with no suspect, reporting a crime with suspect, but the suspect is no longer on the scene, or a non-emergency in progress. It's kind of like noise complaints and stuff like that. So hopefully the things that I listed can sort of help you make that decision next time. But Michael, please take it back away. Let's go.
And then, so that would be point 2. So point 1 is fill those pipes up with all this data in process, always more to do there. Point 2 is, make sure we're really making sense of all that data, operationalizing and making it useful, harnessing the power of AI. That's in process, announced earlier this week, actually. And then 3 is we really imagine a world where all these devices can start to work in harmony to actually try to prevent bad things before they occur. So, we did some foundational research on this when we were in grad school. And, for example, it turns out snowfall causes heart attacks.
Yeah.
And it's not equally distributed, right? So,
Yeah.
What we're learning is the road conditions, weather, event data, traffic flow patterns, certain variables contribute to car accidents. And as we start to understand that at scale across the United States and increasingly globally, we can start to learn what causes it and eventually potentially do things to take preventative action. So, for example, if we know that, you're likely at a higher risk of a car accident over the next 2 miles, we might, if it was raining out, lightly have your, brake pad touch your brake rotor. And that keeps the brake dry, saves about 5 feet on stopping distance. You wouldn't do that normally because the incremental rolling resistance, but you might do that if you're at a certain higher risk point. So that's just one microcosm of example, but we certainly believe many medical situations and car accidents are actually going to be predictable and potentially preventable.
Yeah. In a future where data and information is super duper important, kind of the twin pillar with data and compute, your data is really critical. I would say it's at that pinnacle, if you will, of life and death, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're just reminded all the time of let's just take an example. The leading cause of death in the United States is out of hospital cardiac arrest. Yeah. Approximately 359,000 fatalities last year, so about 1,000 fatalities a day. It is a 90% mortality rate, Mike. So if you or I had a heart attack on this call right now, 9 out of 10 times, we wouldn't survive. And one of the ironies is there's more AEDs than ever around us, but they're not getting used. So it turns out every minute you save in response time in out-of-hospital cardiac arrest is a 7 to 10% reduction in mortality rate. Yeah. So it's all about how quickly can we identify that it's a heart attack, identify your location, get an ambulance to you, and even can we plug in an AED faster? So we recently signed the first Connect AED platform. So now 911 can actually click a button and it will dispatch the AED that is near you. It'll start chirping audibly on the wall, and it even has a little map that tells you where to bring it. So that's an example of stitching together all these different pieces, saving critical time in these emergencies.
Ever wonder how the ultra-wealthy invest their money? They often back startups before they go public through venture capital. Now, individual investors like you can too with Alumni Ventures. Visit av.vc to get started.
We have a big network of other entrepreneurs and our community of over 10,000 investors and 100,000 fans. How can the community be helpful to you? Yeah,
so I would say probably 3 things on this. So one is we are always looking, anyone who cares about safety, security, health monitoring, emergency response, right? We'd love to talk to you and figure out if there's ways to partner and collaborate on that. So that is, you can probably share it afterwards, but my email address is mmartin, MMARTIN @rapidsos.com.
Yeah,
So
we'll get all
okay.
good contact information in the show notes and graphics and all that
Awesome.
kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So number one is if you have any information that could help first responders in an emergency, whether, remote patient monitoring, security systems, cameras, access control, whatever that is, right? We should be talking to each other. So that would be one. Secondly, is we're starting to think about international expansion. As I mentioned, emergencies are global. There's roughly 2 billion emergencies every year globally. And, Rapid SOS today, we're only in 6 countries. So we're looking for, greater opportunities and partners to help accelerate that. And the third thing, I just want to really stress here is just a huge thank you to this community. I mean, obviously, Alumni Ventures has been a great partner and supporter for us. They've opened a number of doors already. And to your point, like this is important stuff. Every minute we support 326 emergencies.
Yeah.
And we get daily stories of lives saved. And I just I carry with me this book, Mike. So this is a book of, stories that were sent to us from 911 centers. This is from just this year alone. And every page here is a life that was saved. And I'll just, this was a mom who went into labor early and passed on the phone with 911. And, her iPhone got enough data into 911 through us and out to the ambulance that they were able to save her life.
I am so happy that Michael shared this save story. Loved that they have that book in their office of just countless save stories that Rapid SOS calls them. I think it really sort of humanizes what they're doing as a company, right? And it sort of gives life to their mission. So on their website, they have a bunch of other stories, but I picked out a few that I sort of want to share. Here's another story from Mexico where a mobile app provides a lifeline to safety. So an emergency call showed up in Rapid SOS. The 911 call taker made multiple attempts to contact the user without any response, but Rapid SOS provided the telecommunicator with vehicle information and was able to confirm the emergency was the result of an Uber driver calling 911 through their app. So our integrated camera system rapidly located the vehicle, and we sent a medical unit. An elderly passenger was convulsing inside the vehicle, and the unit was able to provide support to the patient. There's a really cool sort of heroic answer of how Rapid SOS integrates with our technological lives right now, right? Like I guarantee almost everyone who's listening to this show has the Uber app on their phone, right? And so just the fact that this Uber passenger was able to get help through said Uber is just great. It's so cool. We've got one more to sort of round this off, but it's in Florida where a smartwatch alerts 911 of a cardiac arrest. So just over midnight, our emergency communications center received a fall detection alert from a smartwatch via 911. The 911 operator swiftly consulted the Rapid SOS data for the call, pinpointing the precise location. And field responders were immediately dispatched and discovered a patient in cardiac arrest. They began CPR at once, successfully restoring circulation, and the operator's prompt action, leveraging Rapid SOS to secure the correct address, played a key role in achieving a favorable outcome for the patient. So again, just another amazing example on how our technology that we use every day can be utilized as tools to help Rapid SOS do their job even better. Like I have an Apple Watch on my wrist right now, and while I'm recording this, and to think that, Rapid SOS in my area could be that close to help. Like essentially you have Rapid SOS on your wrist, right? And so it's just bravo to Rapid SOS. Thank you, Michael, for sharing the story. But yeah, let's finish out this episode strong. Thanks again, Michael, for sharing.
And that, without this community, without your all's support and capital, this wouldn't be possible. So it's been just a great partnership, and I'm very grateful to the community for helping build this with us.
Yeah, and let's get it worldwide. So again, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, we have a lot of connected people. this is a global issue, and technology can make it better. So pitch in, reach out. And this is a great company. It's a great example. We think it's a great investment, but it's also, making the world a little better for our kids. So do the right thing and help out. Right.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
It was great. Keep up the good work, Michael. You've been doing a great job. I love people that take on hard problems, complicated. I know a lot of HBS grads would go, oh, dealing with this and that and governments and six-sided marketplace.
Yeah.
There's easier ways, but sometimes the harder way is the better way. So I commend you and your team. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. And thanks again for the partnership. It's been great.
Excellent. Have a great weekend too, Michael.
All right. Yep. You too.
All right.
Thanks for doing this.
Thanks again for tuning into the Tech Optimist. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd really appreciate it if you'd give us a rating on whichever podcast app you're using, and remember to subscribe to keep up with each episode. The Tech Optimist welcomes any questions, comments, or segment suggestions, so please email us at info@techoptimist.vc with any of those, and be sure to visit our website at av.vc. As always, keep building.